The morning sky over Earth looked normal, but everything changed when the signal came through. Admiral Park Jin-ho stood on the bridge of the biggest human warship ever built. His hands gripped the metal railing as he watched the screen's light. Up with an incoming message from deep space, 12 different alien faces appeared on the main display. They looked nothing like humans. Some had multiple eyes, others had skin like metal, and one seemed to be made of living crystal. But their message was clear in every language across the galaxy. "We are the Hegemony Council," said the creature. In the center, its voice cold and mechanical through the translation system. "We have ruled the stars for thousands of years. Your species has become a problem." Admiral Park felt his jaw tighten. Behind him, his crew members whispered nervously to each other. They had all heard stories about the Council, but seeing them was different. These beings controlled more worlds than humans could count. The crystal creature continued speaking. "Your expansion across the galaxy ends now. You build too many colonies. You claim too many systems. You disturb the peace we have created." On Earth, President Kim Min-ho watched the same broadcast from his command center in Seoul. The room was full of military advisors and government officials, all staring at the holographic displays showing alien ships positioned around human space. The president's face remained calm, but his hands were shaking slightly. "You have exactly 1 standard year," the lead alien declared. "All humans must return to your home system. You will stay on Earth and your nearby planets. You will never leave this small area of space again. If you agree, we will let you live in peace." The alien paused, and then the screen changed. New images appeared. Planets that looked like they had been burned from space. Cities turned to glass. Oceans boiled away. Millions of dead worlds floating in the darkness. "These civilizations refused our generous offer," the alien explained. "Without emotion, they chose war instead of peace. They chose death instead of life. We hope humans are wiser." Dr. Lee So-jin watched from her laboratory on Luna Station. As Earth's best scientist for studying alien technology, she was supposed to understand how these creatures built their weapons and ships. But as she studied the broadcast signal itself, something caught her attention. The quantum signatures from all 12 species looked almost identical. It was strange. Different civilizations should have different technology patterns. She started taking notes on her tablet. The frequency patterns were too similar, too organized. It was like they all used the same basic design for their most important systems. Dr. Lee had studied enough alien tech to know this might be important later. Meanwhile, Captain Choi Hena was stationed at the Mars Defense Base, watching the alien patrol ships through her telescopes. Her job was to protect the outer human colonies from any threats. But as the hours passed after the broadcast, she noticed something odd. The alien ships that had been watching human space closely were starting to move away. Their patrols became less frequent. It was like they already believed the humans would give up without a fight. "They think we're scared," she muttered to her second-in-command. "They think this is over." Back on the alien command ship, the council members were already celebrating. The lead creature, known as Exector of X, turned to its companions. Another species brought to heel without firing a shot. "Humans are like all the others. They will choose survival over pride." The other council members agreed. They had done the same thing hundreds of times before. Show overwhelming force, give an ultimatum, and wait for surrender. It always worked. Younger species never had the courage to fight beings who controlled half the galaxy. 12 months should be more than enough time, said another council member. Most species accept within weeks. We are being very generous with these humans. But they had made a mistake. Humans were not like the other species they had conquered. Admiral Park Jin-ho was already thinking about defense plans. President Kim Min-ho was calling emergency meetings with his military commanders. Dr. Lee So-jin was analyzing alien technology for weaknesses, and Captain Choi Hana was watching the alien patrols pull back, giving humans more freedom to move. Then they had realized. The council thought they had won a victory without fighting. They believed their reputation and their show of force was enough to make humans surrender. The footage of destroyed worlds was supposed to terrify Earth into submission instead. They had given humanity the most valuable gift possible, time to prepare. The 12 months they offered as mercy would become 12 months of human planning, building, and preparing for the fight of their species' life. The Council's confidence would become their downfall. As the broadcast ended, the alien faces disappeared from screens across human space. Only one thing was certain. The Hegemony Council had just made the biggest mistake in their thousands of years of rule. They had threatened humanity's children, and they had given humans time to respond. The greatest war in galactic history was about to begin, and the aliens had no idea what was coming for them. 3 months had passed since the aliens gave their ultimatum. The whole galaxy was watching to see what humans would do. Most expected Earth to fight back with desperate fury. Instead, they got something that surprised everyone. President Kim Min-ho appeared on every screen across human space. He wore his best formal suit and looked directly into the camera. His voice was calm and respectful as he spoke to the Alien Council. "We have thought carefully about your offer," he said, bowing his head low. "Humanity accepts your terms. We thank the Great Council for showing us mercy instead of destroying us like the other worlds." The President's words spread across the galaxy faster than light. On the Council's command ship, Executor Vex felt satisfaction wash over him. Another species had chosen wisdom over pride. The human leader even thanked them for their kindness. "Begin monitoring their withdrawal," Vex ordered his subordinates. "Ensure they move all their people back to Earth as promised." Within days, huge ships began moving through space toward Earth's solar system. The vessels were massive. Each one could carry millions of people. Human colonies that had taken decades to build were suddenly emptying out. Families packed their belongings and boarded the evacuation. Ships with sad faces. The alien watchers saw exactly what they expected to see. Defeated humans running home with their tails between their legs. The Council's intelligence reports confirmed it. Massive population movements toward Earth. Colonies being abandoned. Human military forces pulling back. But Admiral Park Jin-ho was watching different screens in his secret command center. These screens showed the real truth. The evacuation ships were not full of crying families and household belongings. They were packed with the most advanced weapons humanity had ever built. "Operation Exodus is running perfectly," he told his staff. "The aliens see what we want them to see." Captain Choi Haina commanded one of these fake evacuation missions. Her ship looked like all the others from the outside, a peaceful transport vessel moving slowly toward Earth. But hidden in the cargo holds were experimental plasma cannons, quantum torpedo launchers, and shield generators powerful enough to protect entire planets. "Colony 7 evacuation complete," she reported over secure channels. What she really meant was that Colony 7 had been turned into a hidden military base. The colonists were still there, but now they lived underground. Above ground, automated systems made the colony look empty and abandoned. Every human settlement was doing the same thing. Mining colonies became weapons factories. Research stations turned into spy centers. Trading posts became supply depots for a secret war. But from space, everything looked dead and empty. Dr. Lee Sojin barely slept during these months. Her laboratory on Luna Station was working day and night to solve the biggest puzzle in the galaxy. She had alien technology samples from dozens of different species in the Council. Each piece of equipment came from civilizations separated by thousands of light years and millions of years of development. But they all had the same weakness. The breakthrough happened at 3 in the morning on a Thursday. Dr. Lee was studying quantum resonance patterns. When she saw it clearly for the first time, every single alien weapon, shield, and communication device used the exact same frequency range. It was like they had all copied from the same instruction manual. "That's impossible," she whispered to herself. Then she realized what it meant, unless they all came from the same source. She ran more tests, to be sure. The evidence was overwhelming. The Hegemony Council had not just conquered other species, they had forced everyone to use their technology. This made the Council's control easier, but it also created a single point of failure. If someone could disrupt that frequency, every alien weapon in the galaxy would stop working at the same time. Dr. Lee smiled for the first time in months. She had found the key to victory. While scientists worked on technical solutions, other Humans were solving the problem in a more direct way. Lieutenant Yoon Jae-min led teams of volunteers on the most dangerous mission imaginable. They had to get close to the aliens without being discovered. The plan was brilliant in its simplicity. Yoon and his people pretended to be refugees from the abandoned human colonies. They acted desperate and hungry, begging for work on alien worlds. They claimed their own government had left them behind, and they had nowhere else to go. The aliens felt superior and generous when they offered jobs to these pathetic humans. They put them to work in power plants, communication centers, and military bases. The humans acted grateful and worked hard to show they were not threats. But every night, Yoon's people were mapping every important system on every alien world. They learned where the power came from, how the communications worked, and where the weapons were stored. They placed tiny devices that could cause massive damage when activated. Most importantly, they sent detailed reports back to Earth using hidden transmitters. Within 6 months, humans had infiltrated every major alien civilization in the galaxy. The Council had thousands of human workers in their most sensitive facilities, and they never suspected a thing. The alien patrols around human space became less frequent. The Council pulled back most of their military forces, confident that the human problem had been solved peacefully. They congratulated themselves on their wisdom and mercy. They had no idea that their mercy had given humanity everything they needed to destroy them completely. The 1-year deadline was only 3 days away. Executor Vex felt proud as he prepared his ceremonial fleet to witness humanity's final surrender. 12 beautiful alien warships, each one representing a different species in the Council, would escort the last human refugees back to Earth. This will be remembered as a perfect example of peaceful conquest, Vex told his officers. No shots fired, no lives lost unnecessarily. The humans have learned their place in the galaxy. The alien fleet moved slowly toward Earth's solar system, expecting to find broken and defeated humans loading the last of their possessions onto old transport ships. Instead, they found something that made Vex's blood run cold. Admiral Park Jin-ho was waiting for them with over 2,000 human warships. The human fleet stretched across space like a metal wall, ships that the aliens had never seen before, hung in perfect formation. Weapons that should not have existed pointed directly at the approaching Council fleet. "This is impossible," Vex whispered. His intelligence reports had shown humans fleeing in terror. Where had this massive fleet come from? Admiral Park's voice came over the communication channels, calm and steady. "Welcome to Earth's solar system, Executor Vex. I believe you were expecting refugees. Instead, you found an army." Vex tried to respond, but before he could speak, something terrible happened to his ships. Every weapon system shut down. All the shields went dark. The engines stopped working. In seconds, the most advanced warships in the galaxy became helpless. Metal boxes floating in space. Dr. Lee Sojin watched from her command station as her quantum disruptors did their work. For months, she had studied the alien technology weakness she discovered. Now her machines were broadcasting the exact frequency needed to shut down every piece of Council equipment. "All alien ships are disabled," she reported to Admiral Park. "Their crews are alive, but completely powerless." But the disabled fleet was just the beginning. Admiral Park activated his communication device and spoke a single word into it. "Execute." Light years away, Lieutenant Yoon Jae-min heard that word and smiled. He was standing in the main power plant of the Korathai homeworld, wearing the same maintenance uniform he had worn for 6 months. The alien supervisors trusted him completely. They had no idea he was about to destroy their entire civilization. Yoon pressed a small button hidden in his pocket. Across the planet, dozens of other humans did the same thing. The explosions were small, but perfectly placed. Every major power station, communication hub, and defensive system on the planet went dark at exactly the same moment. The same thing was happening on 11 other alien homeworlds. Human sleeper agents, who had pretended to be refugees for months, suddenly revealed their true purpose. They had learned every weak point, mapped every critical system, and placed their sabotage devices in perfect positions. Within minutes, the 12 most powerful civilizations in the galaxy were blind, deaf, and defenseless. On the Vex's command ship, the Executor frantically tried to contact his government. The communication systems were completely dead. He could not call for help, could not warn anyone, could not even find out what was happening to his own homeworld. "Sir," one of his officers said with panic in his voice, "we're detecting massive power failures across all Council territories. Every planet, every station, everything is going dark simultaneously." Vex finally understood. The humans had not spent a year running away in fear. They had spent a year preparing the most elaborate trap in galactic history. Every moment of apparent defeat had been planned. Every sign of weakness had been fake. Captain Choi Henna received Admiral D. Park's signal and immediately dropped all pretense. Her defense fleet, which had been hiding behind artificial asteroids for months, suddenly appeared throughout the solar system. The abandoned human colonies came back to life as hidden weapons platforms revealed themselves. The aliens found themselves surrounded by enemies they never knew existed. Human ships emerged from every shadow, every hiding place, every location the Council had thought was empty. The species that had terrorized the galaxy for thousands of years suddenly realized they were the ones who should be afraid. "Surrender now." Admiral Park broadcasted to all alien ships, "and your crews will be treated fairly. Continue to resist, and you will share the fate of the worlds you once destroyed." Executor Vex looked at his disabled ships, his panicked crew, and the massive human fleet surrounding them. His weapons were useless. His communication was cut off. His homeworld was probably already under human control. He had walked into a trap that had taken a full year to prepare, and now it was too late to escape. The Council had ruled through fear for millennia. They had conquered hundreds of species by showing overwhelming force and demanding submission. They had never imagined that one of their victims would be smart enough, patient enough, and ruthless enough to turn their own tactics against them. The trap had been perfect. While the aliens celebrated their diplomatic victory, humans had been preparing for total war. Now, the most powerful military force in galactic history was helpless, and humanity held all the cards. Vex slowly reached for his surrender beacon, knowing that pressing it would end thousands of years of alien dominance. The age of the hegemony. Council was over, and the age of humanity had begun. The next few days were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. What happened was not really a war. It was more like watching a giant machine fall apart piece by piece. Human forces appeared everywhere at once, like they had been hiding in every shadow across the stars. Admiral Park Jin-ho stood on his command ship and watched the reports come in from across the galaxy. Every alien military base was surrendering. Every Council fleet was disabled. Every government center was under human control. His officers could barely keep up with all the victory messages flooding their communication systems. "Sir, we have captured the Korathi leadership," reported one officer. "The Zephyrian homeworld has surrendered completely. The Crystal Collective is requesting terms." But Admiral Park was not interested in quick victories. He wanted something more personal. For months he had been hunting the specific alien leaders who had threatened to destroy humanity. The ones who had shown those terrible images of burned worlds and dead civilizations. One by one, they were brought to him in chains. The first was Executor Vex, the crystalline being who had spoken for the Council. His crystal body was now cracked and dim, no longer glowing with the arrogant power it had shown before. Two human soldiers dragged him into Admiral Park's command room and forced him to kneel. "You remember me?" Admiral Park said quietly. "Was watching when you threatened to turn Earth into glass, when you showed us those dead worlds and told us that would be our fate if we did not obey." Vex could not meet the Admiral's eyes. "We were offering you mercy. A chance to live. In peace?" "Peace under your boot," Admiral Park replied. "Now you get to experience what it feels like to be powerless." The next alien leader brought in was General Thok of the Warhammer species. This creature had once commanded fleets that destroyed entire star systems. Now his forearms were bound with human restraints, and his massive body shook with fear. "Please," Thok begged through his translator. My people were only following orders. We can serve humanity now. Can be useful. Admiral Park studied the creature that had once terrified billions of beings across the galaxy. You had your chance to be useful. You chose to be threatening instead. Dr. Lee Sojin watched these proceedings from her laboratory, but she was more interested in studying the alien technology they had captured. Her quantum disruptors had worked even better than she had hoped. Every piece of council equipment was now completely useless. She examined a Karathi plasma rifle that had once been able to melt through battleship armor. Now it was just an expensive piece of metal sculpture. A Zephyrian shield generator that could protect entire cities sat dark and silent on her workbench. It's amazing, she told her assistant. Their technology was actually more advanced than ours in many ways. But they made it all dependent on one single frequency. It's like building a magnificent castle and giving everyone the same key to the front door. The alien civilizations had become so comfortable with their dominance that they had never imagined someone might find a way to turn their own technology against them. Now their greatest strength had become their greatest weakness. Captain Choi. Hannah was dealing with a different problem, too many surrenders to handle. Her communication systems were overwhelmed with alien leaders begging to give up. Some offered to pay tribute. Others promised to serve humanity forever. A few tried to negotiate terms as if they still had some power to bargain with. The tentacled empire wants to surrender, her communications officer reported. They're offering to give us half their territory. Tell them we'll take all of it, Captain Choi replied without emotion. They can keep whatever we decide to let them keep. Some alien species tried to fight back, but their efforts only showed how hopeless their situation had become. The Bladewing warriors were famous for never surrendering. They launched one final attack against a human colony. Using their most powerful weapons and their bravest soldiers, the human defenders disabled every Bladewing ship in less than 10 minutes. The warriors found themselves floating helplessly in space, their weapons useless, their ships powerless. They had fought with the courage of legends. But courage meant nothing when your equipment would not work. After 2 weeks of watching his military forces collapse, President Kim Min-ho decided it was time to make the situation official. He traveled to the former council headquarters on the neutral world of Nexus Prime, bringing with him a small diplomatic team. The great council chamber had once been filled with proud alien leaders making decisions that affected billions of lives. Now it was full of defeated beings kneeling before a human president they had dismissed as primitive just months before. Executor Vex, still in chains, was forced to read the surrender document aloud. His voice cracked as he spoke the words that ended thousands of years of alien rule. We, the former Hegemony Council, surrender all authority to the Terran government. We acknowledge that our threats against humanity were unjust. We place ourselves at the mercy of those we wronged. President Kim accepted the surrender with quiet dignity. He did not gloat or threaten revenge. He simply nodded and said, "The galaxy now has new management. We will discuss what that means for each of your species individually." In less than 1 year, the most powerful empire in galactic history had fallen. The beings who had ruled the stars for millennia were now prisoners of a species they had tried to cage. The universe had learned that threatening humanity's children was the fastest way to lose everything. 6 months had passed since the Great Surrender. The galaxy looked completely different now, but not in the way most people had expected. When Admiral Park Jin-ho took control of the former Hegemony territory, many aliens feared the worst. They remembered how the Council had ruled through terror and death. They expected humans to do the same thing. Instead, they found something they had never experienced before: fair treatment from their conquerors. President Kim Min-ho sat in his new office on the central world of Nexus Prime. The building had once been the Council's headquarters, where alien leaders had made decisions that caused suffering across the galaxy. Now it was the center of something entirely different. We could rule through fear like they did. Admiral Park had told the president during their first meeting after the victory, but that would make us just like them. We're better than that. The president had agreed. They would build something new, a government based on justice instead of terror. The former council species were given a choice that surprised everyone. They could join humanity's new commonwealth as equal partners, or they could stay isolated on their homeworlds and be left alone. Most chose to join, but not because they were forced to. They chose integration because human rule was actually better than what they had experienced under their own leaders. Executor Vex was one of the first to make this choice. The crystal being had spent weeks in prison, expecting to be executed. For his crimes, instead, President Kim visited him personally. "Your people were skilled administrators before the council corrupted them," the president said. "We need help governing this galaxy fairly. Are you willing to serve justice instead of serving fear?" Vex was so shocked he could barely speak. No conqueror in galactic history had ever offered their defeated enemies a chance at redemption. "You would trust me after what I did?" "I would trust you to do better," President Kim replied. "The question is whether you trust yourself." Within months, Vex became one of humanity's most valuable advisors. His knowledge of galactic politics helped the new government avoid many mistakes. Other former council leaders followed his example, choosing to build something better instead of dwelling on their past failures. Captain Choi Hana discovered that victory brought new responsibilities. No, her job now was not to conquer, but to liberate. Across the galaxy, there were dozens of species that had been enslaved by the Council for centuries. These beings had lived in fear for so long that they barely remembered what freedom felt like. "We're here to help," Captain Choi told the leaders of the Singing People, species that had been forced to work in the Council's mining colonies. "You're free now. What do you want to do with your freedom?" The Singing People had not been allowed to make their own choices for over 300 years. Their leader, an elderly being with a voice like wind chimes, wept when she realized the humans were serious. "We want to go home," she whispered. "We want to see our homeworld again and sing the old songs." Captain Choi made sure it happened. Her ships carried the Singing People back to their ancestral world, which had been empty for centuries. When they stepped onto their home soil and began to sing their traditional melodies, even the human soldiers had tears in their eyes. This scene was repeated across the galaxy. The tree dancers returned to their forest worlds. The deep swimmers went back to their ocean planets. The stargazers rebuilt their observatories on mountaintops. Species that had been scattered and enslaved were finally allowed to be themselves again. These liberated peoples became humanity's most loyal allies, not because they were forced to, but because they genuinely loved their human liberators. Dr. Lee So-jin had her own vision for the new galaxy. She remembered how the Council had hoarded advanced technology, keeping it away from other species to maintain their power. She was determined to make sure that never happened again. "Knowledge belongs to everyone," she announced at her first Galactic Science Conference. "The quantum frequency discovery that won our war will be shared freely with all species. Should have to stay primitive because their rulers want to keep them weak." Her technology sharing initiative became one of the most popular programs in the new government. Species that had been using the same tools for thousands of years suddenly had access to advanced science. Worlds that had struggled with basic problems, like disease and hunger, found solutions that had been kept from them for centuries. The galaxy began to thrive in ways it never had under Council rule. 1 year after the surrender, President Kim stood before the new Galactic Assembly. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the Great Hall. Some former council members, some newly liberated peoples, and some species that had never been involved in galactic politics before. "We did not ask to rule the galaxy, President," Kim told the assembly. "We only wanted to be left alone to live our lives and raise our children in peace. When that peace was threatened, we defended it. Now we find ourselves responsible for keeping peace for everyone." He paused and looked around the room at faces that represented trillions of living beings. The old council ruled through fear. They made peace by crushing anyone who might disturb it. "We will make peace through justice. Anyone who threatens the innocent will face consequences. Anyone who seeks to oppress others will be stopped. Those who choose to live in harmony will find us to be good neighbors and faithful allies." On Earth, a new monument was built in the center of New York City. It was simple but powerful. A black stone with words carved in every galactic language. They declared peace. We declared that peace would be on our terms. Visitors from across the galaxy came to see it. They learned the story of how humanity had refused to go quietly into extinction. and had instead reshaped the entire universe. The monument reminded everyone that humans were not just another species to be pushed around. They were the people who had proven that sometimes the best way to achieve peace was to be strong enough to enforce it,